They are stealthy, cautious, and extremely dangerous. You've probably already guessed that the topic of today's video is submarines. Find out how to play the new ship type and how to oppose them right now. Submarines can be in one of 3 different states in battle. These subs have different capabilities in each state. You can switch between states with the C and F keys. In their surface state, submarines can travel at their full speed, restore dive capacity, which is required to stay underwater, and capture key areas. In this state, submarines are at their most vulnerable and are easy to detect. Let's now dive to the periscope depth. Submarines are harder to detect in this state, and they keep their capability of moving at full speed. At this depth, submarines can spot enemies from a similar distance to the spotting distance by aviation. Surveillance radar is useless against submarines at the periscope depth. However, there are other means to detect a submarine. The radio location skill, for example, will still show the direction toward a submarine. The last state is maximum depth. Here, you can be spotted only by other submarines using submarine surveillance and surface ships when their hydroacoustic search is activated, but only within a 2-kilometer radius. At the maximum depth, submarines can see ships that have been detected at a distance between 8 and 10 kilometers on average. In this state, it's easier for submarines to retreat in case of danger or to attack targets that have been already spotted. It's important to note that submarines can't capture key areas when at the periscope or maximum depths. In addition, these states consume dive capacity. When this parameter reaches 0, the submarine begins to surface automatically. Regardless of a submarine's diving position, her primary armament will always be torpedoes. Tier 6 subs are armed with torpedoes that have acoustic guidance. At higher tiers, tiers 8 and 10, they additionally have alternative torpedoes. Acoustic torpedoes deal minor damage and have low chances of causing flooding. Their primary advantage is that they home in on their targets. To lock on a target, you need to hit an enemy with a sonar ping before or after launching the torpedoes. Upon hitting an enemy ship with a sonar ping, a sector on the ship's hull will be marked for some time. Acoustic torpedoes will home in on this exact sector. Hitting the same part of the enemy hull with a sonar ping again will prolong the guidance timer and make the guidance more effective. If a subsequent sonar ping hits another part of the enemy ship, the guiding sector will move to the new spot. Several ships can be marked with a sonar ping simultaneously. However, torpedoes launched after a sonar ping has been emitted will home in on the last marked sector. This sector will be prioritized for launch torpedoes and will bear a special symbol. Acoustic torpedoes remember the priority sector even if another enemy is marked with a sonar ping after the torpedoes have been launched. Torpedoes with acoustic guidance are effective against maneuverable and lightly armored targets, but you should also take into account that it's harder to hit such enemies with a sonar ping. Keep in mind that enemies can see when submarines emit sonar pings. A visual effect for sonar emission appears above the submarine. This means that the enemy will always be aware of your presence when you use homing torpedoes. As for the alternative torpedoes, they are similar to those that can be found on surface ships. These torpedoes can't be guided with sonar pings, and they deal higher damage than their acoustic counterparts. Submarines can launch alternative torpedoes only when surfaced or at the periscope depth. All in-game submarines come equipped with a variant of damage control party that has a limited number of charges. To detect enemy ships, submarines have hydrophone and submarine surveillance. The former consumable shows the locations of surface ships and submarines at the periscope depth and on the water surface, and it also highlights the seabed relief. The submarine surveillance consumable detects enemy submarines at the maximum and periscope depths. Enemies that have been detected by it will be visible to all Allied ships. In addition, US submarines have enhanced rudder gears, which speeds up the process of shifting gears and switching states. German submarines can utilize reserve battery unit, which temporarily disables expenditure of dive capacity as well as its replenishment in the surface state. When new ships appear in the game, it's important to both master playing them and understand how to oppose them. The same applies to submarines. If your ship is hit with a sonar ping, you can reset its effect by utilizing Damage Control Party, but don't rush to do so immediately after the first sonar ping hits. Wait until acoustic torpedoes come closer to you before activating the consumable. Note that acoustic torpedoes cease to home in on their targets while still some distance away. At this point, they start moving along a straight line trajectory. That's why more nimble ships can evade torpedoes with just timely maneuvers and without using Damage Control Party. Almost all ships in the game have depth charges. Destroyers and subcruisers attack enemy submarines by utilizing onboard depth charges. To deploy this weaponry, ships need to travel above the probable submarine location, then press the appropriate key. Most other ships are equipped with depth charge airstrike. It works the following way. When battleships and cruisers activate this armament, a targeting reticle for the airstrike appears. You'll then need to choose the preferred release area and click the left mouse button. After a short while, a group of anti-submarine warfare aircraft will arrive and drop depth charges in this area. Aircraft carriers have a variant of depth charge airstrike that activates automatically when any submarines or signs of their presence are detected within its area of effect. These signs include the effects of using sonar pings and fuel spillages on the water's surface that are left in the wake of a damaged submarine. Moreover, submarines are most vulnerable to different types of ammunition when they are surfaced or at the periscope depth. Even a shell that falls close to a submarine can deal splash damage to her, but direct hits obviously inflict greater damage. Captain, submarines are ready to take their place on the same stage as all other ship types in the game. Batten down the hatches and prepare to dive.